In a bold move that has rocked global diplomacy, President Donald Trump has ordered the U.S. to stop funding the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees and announced the country's withdrawal from the UN Human Rights Council. These decisions send a strong message about America's shifting priorities. With global tensions already high, the U.S. withdrawal raises questions about its role in international diplomacy, the future of humanitarian aid, and the impact on its allies, especially in the Middle East and Europe. What does this mean for multilateralism moving forward? Welcome to Think Tank.
Our world is becoming unhinged.
The Street Journal has reported that President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to withdraw the United States from the United Nations Human Rights Council, UNRWA, and other UN agencies, accusing them of anti-American bias. The order also halts U.S. funding to the UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, and reviews its engagement with UNESCO. Trump criticizes the UN management and the disproportionate financial burden placed on the United States, emphasizing that other nations should contribute more. The U.S. currently holds observer status in the UNHRC, and this decision will end its participation in human rights assessments. This move aligns with Trump's previous actions, such as withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Paris Health Organization. Qnews has reported that the President Trump has signed an executive order to withdraw the United States from the UN Human Rights Council and stop funding the UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, for Palestinian refugees. This marks a second withdrawal under the leadership, following a similar move during his first term, which was reserved by the former President Biden. This decision comes after Israel falsely accused UNRWA staffers of involvement in the October 7th attack, promoting and prompting the Biden administration to suspend funding. Congress also halted all U.S. contributors to UNRWA until 2025. Trump's move aligns with Israel's stance, as the country opposes the UNHRC and UNRWA, considering them both biased against Israel. Trump's bold moves to cut UN funding and withdraw from key UN bodies may reshape global diplomacy and alliances.
U.S. President Donald Trump ordered a significant policy shift by halting U.S. funding to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, and withdrawing from the United Nations Human Rights Council, UNHRC. These bold actions, part of his broader foreign policy strategy, have created ripple effects in global diplomacy and U.S. relations worldwide. The cessation of funding to UNRWA, which supports millions of Palestinian refugees, directly impacts the agency's ability to deliver crucial services such as education, healthcare, and emergency relief. This decision sent a strong message about the U.S. stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, especially that the UNRWA's work as indispensable for regional stability. Trump's withdrawal from the UNHRC has been equally consequential. The Council, despite its flaws, has been an essential platform for addressing global human rights violations. By stepping away, the U.S. weakened global human rights accountability, diminishing its leadership on such issues, and straining relations with European and Global South allies who have long relied on American support in this area. These actions align with the broader trend of U.S. disengagement from multilateralism, opening opportunities for global powers like China and Russia to expand their influence within international organizations. This realignment may lead to a more fragmented global order, with diminishing U.S. leadership and greater challenges to global governance. The future of international cooperation now faces a more uncertain trajectory.
Providing more analysis about the most recent updates concerning Trump orders U.S. to stop funding UNRWA, withdraws from UN Human Rights Council and its global consequences and implications. Joining us from occupied Jerusalem is Dr. Munir Nusayba, an international humanitarian law professor, and from New York, Ms. Irina Tuskurman, a political researcher in international affairs. A very warm welcome to the program, and we start off with Dr. Nusayba. A very welcome to the program, sir, and thank you very much for joining us. How do you assess the long-term impact of U.S. halting funding to UNRWA on Palestine and their accessor to essential services?
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me on the program. Well, this is expected indeed. The United States, during the first Trump presidency, already decided to halt funding to UNRWA. Trump has a very clear plan towards the Palestinian cause. He is trying to, to work on ending the Palestinian cause without any negotiations and against the rights of the Palestinian people. He already recognized occupied Jerusalem as as an Israeli city under Israeli sovereignty. Moved the Israeli embassy, the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, contrary to international law. In his first presidency, he also stopped funding the UNRWA even before October 7th and before all the accusations, the false accusations that Israel accused the UNRWA. He already took steps against the UNRWA. At this presidency, we can see that he is escalating his attacks against Palestinian rights. Not only has he continued the suspension of the UNRWA funding, which President Biden had done before him, actually, but in addition to that, he has been denying more rights of the Palestinian people. Most shockingly, yesterday, when he met with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, he declared again that he plans to deport the Palestinian people from the Gaza Strip and to transfer them somewhere else in the world. Obviously, this is only called ethnic cleansing, and in this, he is engaging himself in this crime against humanity, which Israel has been conducting since October 7th until the current day. So it is also very natural, actually, and understandable that he wants to withdraw from the Human Rights Council, the UN Human Rights Council.
You mean, sir, Donald Trump wants to withdraw from the Human Rights Council?
Yes, he wants to withdraw from the Human Rights Council, to withdraw the US from the Human Rights Council. And this is only natural. A state that is engaged in genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, complicity with genocide, should not belong in the Human Rights Council in the first place. So it is only natural that he is making this decision. It's very worrying to us Palestinians here, especially, every Palestinian civilian, but also within the human rights sector that I'm involved with, to see that Donald Trump feels so emboldened and empowered to speak against Palestinian rights and to plan against Palestinian rights so publicly, so blatantly before the whole world, declaring that he intends to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip and to own it, as he calls it, and to turn it into a Riviera as if it's an empty real estate that he wants to plan building resorts and whatever he thinks of building. This is not his land. This is Palestine. The Palestinian people have been living here for thousands of years. Nobody can come suddenly and decide to change that. But he believes that with his power and with obviously the request that he gets from Benjamin Netanyahu and his extreme right-wing government, that he can easily ethnically cleanse a whole nation, and that, and of course, he will continue fighting the UNRWA. Obviously, a few days, maybe a week ago, Israel, started implementing its laws. That it actually bans the UNRWA from working in Jerusalem, and the UNRWA headquarters in Jerusalem, in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, was emptied, and there were extreme right-wing Israelis flying Israeli flags, erasing the sign of the UNRWA, and declaring that this will be a colony in the future, an Israeli colony.
Okay,
All
sir,
of this.
I'll leave this there, and I'll be back again to you, sir. But now, Ms. Irina, with the U.S. withdrawal from the UN Human Rights Council, what message does this send to global institutions about America's stance on the University of Human Rights?
Thank you so much for this question. This debate resurfaces approximately every 4 to 8 years with the changes between the Democrats and the Republicans. And the Republicans have grown increasingly skeptical, not of human rights as such, but of UN international human rights organizations. For instance, one of the top funders to UNHRC is a Qatari sheikh who is also known for funding militias and arming groups in Africa, which runs entirely counter to the mission of the UN Human Rights Council. With Qatar government funding this organization and with countries like Iran chairing Human Rights Council, it is without a doubt not seen as a good investment of US taxpayers' funding to advance human rights through such a group where some of the top global human rights violators can not only sit there with impunity but chair such structures. However, U.S. has many other mechanisms for advancing human rights and many allies and formal and informal networks with which they can cooperate to advance humanitarian and human rights causes outside entities which are seen to be corrupted and where U.S. influence is limited by the funding from these other entities.
Okay, Dr. Nusayba, do you believe Trump's actions signal this
of America? Not only
Can
is
you
he
furthermore explain soft power of the United States of America, sir?
Yes, the soft power of the United States is vested in the funding that the United States gives to several countries around the world. What he has done and decided to do at the beginning of his presidency was to stop every international funding and also to disengage the United States gradually. And I think we will see more of that as time goes by from different international agencies and organizations. I think the United States might become less powerful in the United Nations, but will also become less influential in the world. I think that Trump thinks
Sir, you said
about.
the United States will become less influential in the world?
Yes, exactly. That's what I said. Because Trump believes that with his military might, he can change everything. But on the other hand, by stopping all of these fundings and engagements of the United States in the world, when he withdraws the United States from different agencies. He weakens these agencies, UN agencies, but also at the same time he does weaken the United States. At the end of the day, the United States power was not only vested in its army and in its economy, but also in its different types of contributions into the economies of different countries around the world in the international collaborations. Actually, the USAID was an important aspect
Yes,
of
it
that.
was very important, sir.
Yeah, and he has stopped, he's stopping all of that. And also, he is challenging the international world order. We shouldn't forget that
So why
one of
don't
the
we look at it in another means and say that Israel is behind all of this and it is pushing Donald Trump into this path?
Yeah, it is certainly Israel that is pushing the United States into this path. I mean, the first thing that Donald Trump did on his first day of presidency was to sign sanctions against the International Criminal Court. And this is very weird. How come, and it is not the first time he does it, by the way, he's done it before in his first presidency, and he's doing it again now. But how can a country sanction a court? The court is there in order to advance justice and human rights and international law. But when a country that is violating international law and that is supporting a country that is committing genocide, actually, punishes the court, this doesn't really harm the court. I think it also harms the country that is claiming that it is going to punish this court. So what Trump is doing right now is that he's working against the whole system that has been built after the Second World War, after the world learned that only with the advancement of human rights, only with good international institutions and good international dialogue through, Human Rights Council, through courts, through, the system and order of international law, can the world live in peace. What Trump is doing now is say,
Sir, I'll be back
is
again, but I'll ask Ms. Irina, how might these U.S. moves reshape its relations with European allies and impact their diplomatic strategies?
Thank you so much for this question. First, I just want
You're
to
welcome.
quickly that by saying that Israel is pushing US to do anything is like saying that a fly is pushing an elephant. Israel has neither the political nor the economic power to have that sort of impact, and to believe that a country such as the US needs Israel or anybody else to tell them what to do is downright laughable. But getting back to the
Did you say
international,
what Israel tells the United States to do is done instantly? Or did I
is
understand wrong?
downright laughable. It's ridiculous, absurd. It's not even within realm of reality. However, to the extent, if you want to talk about political impact, there is a disproportionate impact from Qatari lobbies in the United States to the tune of billions of dollars of foreign direct investments, campaign contributions, lobbies, soft power, influence, and academic influence. So if you want to talk about any country disproportionately influencing US politics, counterterrorism policy, regional geopolitical considerations, it is Qatar and its financial stakes in the United States, in the political class, and in the business class. Speaking, however, more broadly of international
Ms.
moves,
Irina, did you say Qatar?
Yes, I
What's
did.
the
Very
relation?
Excuse me?
Okay, go ahead.
To the extent U.S. stands about U.S. relationships with the European Union and other countries, the move to sanction ICC is a self-preservationary measure, because just as ICC being politicized can attack and take action against a country that has faced a horrific terrorist attack and which has been accused of genocide by a third party, South Africa, which has itself received funding and backing from very dubious sources. ICC can just as easily take politicized action against U.S. officials, and U.S. has had, prior to the Biden administration, a policy of sanctioning ICC precisely to prevent politicized measures against its own officials as well as those of its allies. And yes, it will have an impact on ICC considerations, because the judges who have been who have been silencing those within their ranks who have been critical of the ICC moves to issue arrest warrants
Doctor,
against.
I'll be back again, Dr. Nusayba. Considering Trump's political narrative, sir, or populist narrative, how does his stance on these UN agencies reflect broader shifts in American foreign policy, sir?
Well, at the end of the day, American foreign policy has been, the U.S. has been a very active country in foreign policy, especially in the United States. In the United Nations, sorry. When the US decides to start diminishing its own role in the United Nations, it will certainly weaken the role of the United States in the United Nations. Of course, the US will continue to be powerful in the Security Council, as it has been always, because it has the veto power there. But other than that, the United States is not a god. At the end of the day, it does not control the world. There are so many other countries in the world that are not happy with the actions of the United States, not happy with the way that the United States is currently undermining the international system and especially the justice system in the world, undermining the human rights system that the world has been building over the past decades. And this will weaken the position of the United States within the international community. I don't know why Trump believes that the United States is so powerful to challenge the whole world with these with these decisions. But I think that the United States will eventually pay from its foreign relations and the stability that it has managed to establish over the years with a lot of throughout the different agencies of the United Nations. It will feel that it has been weakened in all of these circles. Actually,
okay, I'll leave you
yes.
here, sir, and I'll thank you for your take, and I'll move on to Ms. Irina. With Trump's emphasis on national sovereignty, what does this or his stance on multilateralism mean for future U.S. engagement in international treaties and agreements?
To be sure, Trump will certainly be shifting towards a more bilateral approach to foreign relations, as he has during his first term, when he enjoyed strong bilateral relations with many Arab states, as well as close relations with allies in the European Union who shared his objectives and outlook on the global order. However, that doesn't mean that he is completely dismissive of multilateral alliances. His signature project, the Abraham Accords, involved and included the cooperation between multiple states, with U.S. Being one of the guarantors of such an alliance, and he clearly prefers alliances among allies that can be functional and are based in the core principles and interests as well. It's also very likely that he will continue some of the initiatives by his predecessors, such as the Biden's administration's Quad project, bringing together the Indo-Pacific Alliance to counter regional threats, although the function and emphasis and priorities may shift according to the priorities of the administration. I don't believe he will dissolve all the alliances for the sake of dissolving them. I also see Trump as staying in NATO, but pushing NATO to spend more on common defense and increase its own
Thank you very much, Ms. Irina, for your take and your valuable knowledge. A political researcher, and Dr. Munir Nusayba, an international humanitarian law professor. Thank you very much both for your special insights. We really appreciate. And as the United States steps back from global institutions, what does this pivotal moment mean for the future of international cooperation, human rights, and America's role on the world stage? This brings us to the end of today's episode of Think Tank. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Qnews.